Hi, everyone. In this, the first ever episode of the Journey with Jarred podcast, I have Steve Simons on. We talk being competitive, big goals and why we're afraid of telling people, navigating through jobs, deciding what to do after high school, and we discuss our relationships with ourselves. I hope you enjoy. My name is Jarreds Journey, and I'm 26 years old. I just left my full-time job and the business that I've helped build for the last 3 years. I realized that I had to make a change, and so now I'm on my journey. I'm doing this with the hope that it will help others on their own journey, both to see the path that they're on and help them have the courage to make those tough decisions. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy the Journey with Jarred. Hi everyone, I'm Jarreds Journey, and this is episode 1 of the Journey with Jarred. And today we have Steve Simons here with us.
Hey Jared, thanks for having me. My name's Steve. Really looking forward to getting together and having a good chat. I think this is a podcast you and I have talked about for a long time.
A while now, yeah.
Basically just something that we wanted to see in a podcast that we thought should be out there, but isn't. So I'm happy to help you in your new project. And you know, if you just eventually got to scratch your own itch if it's not already out there. So here we are.
Yeah. For a little bit of background, I mean, Steve and I, we've worked together for about 6 months now, up until very recently. When would you have started?
Probably about. I started with Noble about almost a year ago.
Oh wow! Okay.
So it's been quite a long time,
cool.
But still not that long. But
yeah, no, it's we developed a bit of a friendship, I think, and
definitely.
But I think it'll be really cool to go into some things that we haven't necessarily talked about. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'd really love to start off with just your origin story. So a little bit about yourself, what you're currently doing now, and any background information.
Yeah, so my name's Steve. I'm 25. I guess I would be a millennial. I guess I'm a younger millennial, Gen Z, whatever you want to call it. And I'm originally from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Lived out in, after college, I took business. Didn't learn a ton in business school. To be honest, I just went there to play soccer and have a good time and meet a bunch of people, and that I accomplished. So got my money's worth there. But after college, I moved out to Tofino and Vancouver. Learned how to surf. I was watching a Red Bull surfing video in accounting class, and I was bored out of my mind. So I thought, I never want to be an accountant. So I decided to move out west and learn how to surf. And eventually that brought me to Calgary, where I got into tech and into sales, and eventually met you, and had a great time working with you at Noble, and here we are. So it's cool where things take you, and I never thought I'd be filming a podcast here with you, but here we are.
Cool.
Also, for everyone, I'm not drinking a beer. I'm getting a lot of looks while I was walking in. This is a cold brew coffee, so shout out Luke's cold brew coffee.
I'm not gonna lie, I stared at it for probably a good 30 seconds when you first brought it over, and
I got some looks. Like, it's early in the day. People are like, "Dude, it's like it's a Tuesday. What are you doing?" Monday, rather.
Yeah. I'd love to back up even a little bit more and just tell us about what kind of kid you were growing up, things that you liked, interests, stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. So I am the younger brother, so the baby of the family, with my brother and my sister and my 2 parents. And my brother Stu's 12 years older than me. My sister's 10 years older than me, Laura. So basically it was like I had 4 parents. But I think being the younger kid, if anyone can relate, is that really made me competitive, and especially with sports. So at a young age, my brother was ripping slap shots at me in the driveway, playing road hockey, playing a ton of sports, looking up to him. And then my sister's great influence. She got me into sports as well, but she was even my soccer coach, and she taught me a lot of cool stuff. And although sometimes she's like a third parent, we're definitely super close. So
really cool.
Yeah.
Do you find that you've carried that competitiveness into your life now that you've moved away from them?
Definitely, yeah. And I'd be interested to hear too. Do you think that's a good thing before I get into it? Being competitive.
I think that it is a huge thing, actually.
Yeah.
And it's really funny for me because in my family, it was always a negative thing. And I'll always remember, like, very young, actually, my mom not liking one of our cousin's boyfriends because he was too competitive in games. And so
just ruins family events.
Yeah, it was really a funny thing where it was really almost a full-on just negative, and me just kind of going off on my own and being like, no, I'm competitive. Like, I'm going to be competitive. But I think that it's super helpful as long as you don't let it get out of control.
Yeah.
You know, and
double-edged sword.
What I would say for that is letting it get out of control is more about your reaction to the result as opposed to the competitiveness itself. Right?
What do you mean by that?
Being able to accept that loss if you do lose, right? Or not having it affect you for a week or a month or, you know, even, well, depending what it is, but sometimes even a day, whether it's positive or negative, you know, either riding that super high thinking you're, you know, the best thing in the whole world, or like coming up with excuses, or, you know, I'm not good enough, something like that, you know, because you know, of the outcome. So, you know, I think it's not necessarily about the competitiveness itself, but more of how you handle that outcome.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think too, for, like, I know my kids for sure are going to be in sports, and that's not even because I want them to be an athlete per se. I think sports are a great tool because it allows people to learn how to lose, and it allows people to learn how to win and to be good at both. Not to be good at both, but you need to be able to handle both.
For sure.
I think those are great life skills that you get in sports that you don't get anywhere else.
For sure. No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
What about your dream job as a kid?
Dream job as a kid?
Yeah, when you were little and, you know,
okay, well, I'm still going to the NHL, so any NHL scouts out there, you know, I haven't laced them up in about a year, but I'm ready to go to the Flames or the Oilers if you need me. So.
Okay.
My dream job was always to be an NHL player.
Okay.
Like, I think every kid in Canada is to go to the NHL, and aside from that, it was to own the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh,
so
cool. Okay.
That was always my dream.
Okay.
And it still is, but I don't tell people that.
Okay.
Usually.
Really interesting. Okay.
Why
is that?
Why is that? I just love sports, and I think that...
why do you not tell people?
Why do I not tell people? Do you guys ever have big-ass goals that you don't want to tell anyone because they seem foolish? That's kind of mine.
Okay.
So I do want to own the Oilers one day, but for me, I don't want to say that because people just go, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, okay, man. But that's one of my big ass goals. Do you tell people your big goals?
Well, so I was gonna say, and that's actually, I think, somewhat of a switch that I'm forcing myself to do is, and I think it's something that a lot of people go to as well, of, you know, they feel that goal, whatever it might be, is out of reach, right? Totally. Is that, you know, it's audacious to even like say it. Yeah. I'm really trying to be okay with being a lot more open with people, and even if I think it's a ridiculous goal, of, you know, telling them, and
because, like, who cares?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
that's the big
like,
one.
Okay, like,
yeah,
whatever.
Because, you know, like, and even making it hold me accountable, right? And so even for like this, for starting a podcast, I told as many people as I could force myself to do, which was maybe
scary for you,
maybe 10. Yeah,
really,
like it was crazy, and, you know, 8 of those were in a big group. Right, so it was more like saying it once and then having 8 people listen. But telling people so that, okay, I've put it out there, and now not wanting to almost let them down. And so I'm like, well, shit, now I have to actually go and do it.
I remember hearing one podcast, and this guy started a business because he just wanted to impress this girl he was seeing. So you could just, I'm a business owner. And he didn't really want to, but he just like, oh, fuck it. And he did it. So having that social accountability is probably big. And here we are, though. You said it. Yeah. Now we're filming it. So there's truth to it.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I think, like, for me personally, that sort of thing, though, is something that I've always struggled with, of like being open with people and allowing that judgment to come in. And especially something like that where I go, well, what do they think of that? Like, do they see me being able to do that? And so it's definitely something that I've been putting a lot of work into.
Nice. No, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Plus, my sister always says, like, people have their own shit. So, I mean, they're focused on their thing. You do what makes you happy, and be good to people. So,
Now, that was one of the biggest things that kind of, mindset shifting of once I was able to accept it, of nobody actually thinks about you that much.
You think they do.
Crazy. Yeah. For
but
sure.
They don't.
Yeah. You tell somebody that you want to own the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
And even if they react like, okay, buddy, like, what are you thinking about? Like they think about that for maybe a minute, maybe 10 seconds afterwards, maybe not at all as soon as it's out of their mouth and they just move on, you know? And so trying to really force myself to think like that as well of like, okay, it's actually not that big of a deal. It seems like a huge deal for you because you're the one, putting it out and offering that vulnerability up to them.
Yeah.
But something that I've definitely been trying to pound into this skull of mine. So
totally. Yeah. I love that, man. Yeah. That's great.
So what would you say? You still have the goal to own the Oilers, NHL player.
Yeah.
When did that goal start shifting of, okay, maybe this might not be realistic, or moving on to something else and being like, okay, this is actually what I want to do, and whether or not that's still the same right now, or just what the next one was, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love sports, and I think as soon as I found sales was actually a really fun vehicle for me in business.
Okay.
Because I found that as I stopped playing sports and I got into the business world after university and playing college soccer, I found that sales was a really good way to harness that good competitive nature.
Yeah.
That I didn't think that you could get professionally.
Okay.
But then I found sales and I started to really love it. You build relationships. You try to be better than you were each day.
Yeah.
And I think just having that energy and putting that, like you said, in like a good way, was really great for me. And I love sales, and I sort of never look back. So
cool.
That's been my favorite part of business.
Yeah. What was your first experience with sales?
My very first experience with sales.
Yeah.
My mom will tell you I used to sell grapes door to door when I was 4 years old.
Really?
Yeah. Just kind of probably wanted to have money for, who knows, 5-cent candies, whatever kids want at that age.
Yeah. Floss at daycare.
Yeah, floss at daycare. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fall up in the big wheel.
Yeah.
So I sold grapes door to door. Me and my friend Michael Blair, shout out Michael Blair. We wanted to get a ferret when we were, I think, 7 years old. So 6 or 7. So we started a painting company. Okay. And door-to-door sales said, hey, we have this painting company. This is what we're looking to do. We were a couple kids. We lived down the street. We have a painting business. We'd love to paint your step for you. We'd love to paint your house for you. Whoever agreed to that, hey, I respect you. Thank you. But we probably weren't the best painters, but I think...
How many people do you think agreed to that, like just off the top of your head?
One lady paid us $250.
No, really?
I swear to God. She paid us $250, and I think it was because she just saw something in us that was like, hey, this is really cool. These kids are awesome. We want to help them get this ferret. Yeah. Which we ended up getting guinea pigs because I think ferrets they bit you or something.
Yeah, a little more responsibility.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But I remember we painted her steps, and after that I was like, wow, this is sales. This is a lot of fun. Yeah. This is what I love to do. Yeah. And here I am, 25, and I'm still doing it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Now I know, because we've had conversations, is fairly recently over the last couple of years, you actually did a full-time door-to-door sales job as well.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would recommend that for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. I think whatever you want to do in life, you need to be able to communicate. Mm-hmm. And it's something that you're always trying to get better and better at. Every day. You never master communication, but I think you need it in everything. Yeah. So doing a door-to-door sales position, it was great. Yeah. But to tell you the truth, I didn't know it was door-to-door when I started.
Okay, all right.
I moved to Vancouver. Yeah. And I was in this big, bougie-ass office, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. They told us to wear a suit and tie on the first day. So okay, I'm getting this corporate job. Here I am, fresh out of college. I get there, and they tell us that, okay, you guys are going to be knocking on doors. Yeah. About businesses, what do you mean? I just moved to the most expensive city in the world. I'm doing door to door. What the hell? Yeah. But I saw this guy, Cory Leaf, and he's one of my good mentors. Okay. And the way that he carried himself.
Yeah.
And the way that he influenced people.
Yeah.
Something about it, I think it's just an energy. It really drew me to it. And I thought, okay, if this guy's saying that door to door made him what he is today.
Yeah. And sorry, was he part of that company or was
he was?
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So he was my boss at the time. He was one of the directors.
Yeah.
He's gone on to own Grant Cardone Canada.
Okay.
So he's done really well.
Yeah.
And him and his team there, him and Andrew and some of the guys have been killing it. But just knowing that he was more successful than me.
Yeah.
And that he was telling me, hey, this is something that you should really do, made me think, okay, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
And I did that for almost 3 years. And it was the best experience of my life. It took me all around BC, all around Alberta.
Because I'd say like...
It was hard as hell, though.
I was going to say a lot of people hear that and probably sounds like one of the least positive things that they could do in their entire life.
Oh, yeah.
I'm scared.
Absolutely.
You know? And...
especially at 2022.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Friends are out partying. You're knocking on doors in East Vancouver. No one speaks English. Like,
yeah.
You look on Instagram. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should be partying right now.
Yeah. No, for sure. And a crazy experience. And we've talked a little bit. I did a little bit of myself.
You did door to door too.
I did. I hated every second of it. I'm not gonna lie. It was definitely like a great experience.
Yeah. And that was for the painting company?
It was. Yeah. It was when I was running my painting company. And
awesome.
It really, I think the biggest thing it taught me is how to get somebody to like you in half a second. Because really,
you only have.
That's what you have.
You only have the first 2 seconds.
Yeah. You know, and they've already made up their decision before really you even open up your mouth. Right?
Yeah.
And told them why you're there.
And it's a losing battle too because you're some asshole at the door.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, well, why should I trust this guy?
They're automatically pissed off because they're coming there most of the time.
Yeah.
No, really cool.
Yeah.
So we talked about, right, so the journey here.
Yeah.
The Journey with Jarred podcast and why, I really wanted to start it is I found myself kind of going through what I call a quarter life crisis, very recently, and decided.
Which is everyone at this age does.
Yeah, which is a huge realization for me too. Of the more people I talked about or talked to it about, or kind of like, I either have gone through that or I'm going through that right now, and it's not necessarily something that people talk about. You know,
you think you're alone in it because no one talks about it, but everyone for the most part is going through it.
Yeah, and so I really just wanted to talk to people and find out about their different journeys, to maybe get some insight and, get some insight for myself and get some insight for other people. And so if you had to classify it, where would you say you are on your journey right now?
Still figuring it out. Yeah, still figuring it out. I'm in the middle of it, but I'm trying not to stress about it.
Yeah.
Because I think that if you're around good people and you're being good to people and you're doing good things and, you're learning new skills, you're getting better, I don't think you should need to worry because good things are going to happen from that.
Yeah.
But right now I'm in the middle of it. What about yourself?
Same for me, exactly. Just figuring it out. Now, I know that you recently made quite a big move here and left your previous job. Can you tell us a little bit about, why you did that, what made you decide that, and kind of the direction you're heading in now?
Yeah, absolutely. Why I left Noble?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I got a career sales position. So I'm in sales, which I absolutely love. So I'm a territory sales rep. And I think a big thing for me was identifying, okay, where am I best suited in the marketplace?
Yeah.
If there's a line...
What do you mean by that?
Where am I best suited, right? So if there's a line where I could make great money...
Yeah.
Because I think everyone, if you can go make great money, and you enjoy it, then I think you should absolutely do it. So for me, I love sales, and I know I can make great money with sales.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy it. So if I can go out and do that, I think that's what I want to be doing. And eventually, you sort of realize that, like, if you're... I know it's cliche, like everyone says it, but if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to challenge myself and go out there and say, hey, like, I need to be uncomfortable to one day have what I want.
Yeah.
And you need a reason to, like, sort of light a fire under your ass. And I think for me, that was a career switch.
Yeah.
Back into sales where I was just in tech.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately that was the best decision. Although
Cool. Well,
it's kind of scary.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Extremely scary.
Totally.
And so I know that, having some more information, because we've talked a lot about kind of entrepreneurship, right? And when I first met you, you were really, really kind of wanting to head in that direction, right? Of entrepreneurship, eventually, running or owning your own business. Has that changed at all? Where are you with that?
Not at all. Still definitely want to do that. That's something that I'm looking to do in the future as well. But for right now, I'm focused on sales, and then sort of having a longer term focus. I get very impatient, right? So I sort of want it now. Like, I don't know if you ever feel this way. So like, I want the $1 million business now, the $1 billion business, what have you. But for now, in my journey, I think I need to, make some great money, eventually buy a house, do these kind of things, and fund my future business. And sales is a great way to do that. And I also love it. So cool. Yeah, I think that's the journey. But really again, the thing with a lot of this, you don't really know where you are in the journey. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because unless you look at it from like 10 years in the future, you don't know. Yeah. So I'm just trying to do everything that I can to be proactive, to achieve my goals long term. Yeah. Which one of them is to own a successful business. But I don't know, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see where that takes me. Really cool.
I don't know if it'll be a similar answer, but one thing that I've really been trying to figure out is I've never, I'm really bad with goals just in general. Goal setting, especially little goals. Like for me, I'm a very big picture person. And so I hate the minor details.
Like you'll know you'll get there, you just don't know how it's going to look.
Yeah. Like I want to go here. Yeah. And the steps in between, I'll figure out as I go.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. And so I'm very bad with like breaking down the, goals and setting, milestones or anything like that. Yeah. Because I'm very much of I want to figure it out as I go kind of person. Yeah. However, I've never been able to look extremely far in the future. Okay. Right. And so it might be, for that goal of when I was running a business, hitting $1 million. Yeah. Right. And that was it. That was okay. That'll be really cool to hit. Yeah. I'm not figuring anything out in the middle. Totally. And I'll hit that, and then I'll figure out something else that I want to do. Or just like, I really want to go and do this, and I want to learn everything that I possibly can about entrepreneurship. And so I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm just going to figure it out as I go. Yeah. And I'm really good at that once I can find something. Yeah. However, what I realized is I don't necessarily have that North Star of like, for my life, I want to achieve this. Yeah. Which is a huge question and, something to figure out.
It scares the hell out of a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Right. And thinking that you picked the wrong one, or thinking,
FOMO?
Yeah.
Oh shit, if I pick this, then what does that mean?
Is this what I'm supposed to do? Like, what if I actually want to do this? I'm not sure how much I want to do it, but, so really trying to find what my North Star goal is for my life. Right. And I think right now it has to be really sort of grand. Right. And it can't be, for me at least, totally. It can't be specific because I don't know the specific. Yeah. And so
that's where I get caught up too.
Yeah. And so asking that question of, do you have kind of a life goal or a goal in mind or something that you're working towards? Yeah. Is just seeing if you do or not. Yeah. Right. And I don't think a lot of people do. And so again, even just hearing that it's like, oh man, other people don't have it figured out either. It could be
like,
helpful,
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. And so that's all I meant by that question is, if you had something great, and if not, like, you're not the only one kind of
still trying to figure it out. Yeah. still trying to figure it out. I definitely want to be a business owner one day.
For sure.
I heard Tim Ferriss say something, or Ed Milet say something very cool. Yeah. And he said, when he dies, whatever you believe in, say it's heaven. Yeah. When you die and go to heaven or wherever you go, and you meet the person that you could have been, the highest level version of you. Yeah. He, at the end of his life, wants to be as close to that person as possible when he meets them.
Really cool.
So he doesn't want to meet this person in heaven or wherever and realize that, wow, he didn't do shit with his life and he's not close to this person at all. This person's way better than me. But he also strives for that every day so that when he goes wherever after his life is over, he's as close to that person as possible. I thought that was really cool. So
phrasing it in a little bit of a different way then too, of have you thought at all about what type of legacy you would like to leave?
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as like, what are the traits that you want to be known for when you're gone to the, you know, the closest people around you? Or is it a grand legacy of, you know, I want to affect, you know, as many people as humanly possible? Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, definitely. These are the things that keep me up at night as well.
Okay.
But my grandpa Jack was an incredible guy.
Okay.
He was someone that I really looked up to, and that was, for a lot of it, it's just like the fun in our family. Like our family was so fun. Like as we would go over to see Grandpa Jack, and we would have an absolute blast.
Yeah.
And he passed away when I was 7.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, of course I understand it happens, part of life. But the fact that I remember him so well, and that he made such a big impact on my life, that I still remember him, and I talk about him all the time, and I really remember the way he made me feel, and the energy that he brought to our family, and the stories that we would have, and the stupid sayings, and just every little thing. I want to leave that sort of impact for my family and for the world. And when you went to his funeral, it was absolutely packed, and there was stories of people telling, "Oh my gosh, Jack had this time," or blah blah blah, or just the craziest stories. And I think to have that impact on people would be something that I strive for every day.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So I want to go a little bit of a different direction now.
Yeah.
Cool. Have you ever had an experience of feeling stuck in your life? You know, or lost, something along those lines? Does one pop into your head?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. For sure. I think there's a couple I can give you, but I remember in high school, it kind of caught me off guard because, and if every young person listening to this, the fact that they were like, hey, like, you're like 16, or you're like 17, 18. Like, like, you need to know like what you want to do for the rest of your life. So yeah, just if you could just like figure it out next week, that would be cool. Also, you need to figure it out. And then you're gonna have to go to university like tomorrow. And
I think the pressure that's put on, like, you know, especially 16, 17, 18
You're
year
like,
olds.
what the fuck? Are you kidding me? I have to get this figured out.
Better start planning. Like, you got retirement coming up pretty soon.
Like, I'm still going to the NHL, right? No, that's a lot of pressure, and I think I felt lost at that time. And one of the best things I did for that was just take a gap year.
Really?
I moved to Banff when I was just graduated high school. And originally I went to college just because my parents were like, hey, like, you got to go to college. And I was like, okay. So I went and I fucking hated it. I went, and I think me and my friend Eric, we played like FIFA instead of going to class, or like we'd play NHL.
How long were you there for?
Probably a month before the self-awareness kicked in, and I was like, no, I'm taking a gap year. So took a gap year, golfed a ton, met a ton of people in Banff, tried everything. Like, just tried to see what I like, and had that life experience. And then eventually I came back to university and sort of came to it on my terms, opposed to just, hey, society says you have to do this. Did you go to university right after?
I did.
Really?
It's so funny how...
On your terms, or?
And why I pause there is it's so funny how I've lived a lot of my life. Of a lot of times just stumbling into it. You know, and like, when I say I really don't like the details, like, I really stay away from them. And so coming out of high school, same sort of thing where I had no idea what I wanted to do. Right? Like no clue. So I'm like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply for a whole bunch of different programs, completely different, and then see which one I get accepted to.
Really?
And then that'll help me make my decision.
Wow.
Right? And it didn't work out because I got accepted to pretty much all of them. One I didn't get accepted to. And I'm still sour about it. It was a medical lab tech at SAIT.
Okay. That's what your parents do, right?
Yes, that's exactly what they do. They're lab aides. And so they really wanted me to do it, and I
Yeah.
told them I didn't know what to do. So they said, "Oh, just do this, and it'll be a job, and you figure out what you want to do."
Yeah.
After that, and so I applied, didn't get accepted. Still sour about it to this day.
Yeah, which school?
SAIT here in Calgary, and
SAIT,
so
come on.
I know, just ridiculous. But I got accepted to 4 other programs from the U of C and Mount Royal.
Nice.
Right. And all of them like sort of kind of wanted to do, but didn't really wasn't strongly on any of them. And so one day it's literally just like, okay, well, I've always sort of wanted to be a doctor. And so I'll do science.
Okay.
Right. And that was it. Like, it was just like,
I
okay.
watched Grey's Anatomy once. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And so no idea what I was doing. Just like, okay, I'm going to go to Mount Royal do a science degree.
Yeah. Good for you though, to at least pick something.
Yeah.
I mean, pick some things. If it doesn't work, hey.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you got to just choose.
Yeah, just try again, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that's not talked about enough.
Mm-hmm.
Is that if you find out that you made the wrong decision, it's not the end of the world, right?
No.
And like, you took a gap year, right?
Yeah.
Other people could go to university for a year and then switch into a different program, right? You know, like there's so many different ways to
like
do it.
our friend Emma, like she was in education, then she was like, hey, actually I love business. I'm going to go into business.
Yeah. And you know,
cool.
even if you take 5 years off or 10 years off, right? Like you're still young, right? And
you're young as fuck, as
Yeah.
Gary Vee says. Yeah. How old are you?
Yeah.
99. You're young as fuck.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, okay, go do something else, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that.
And that's
for a
not
couple
saying,
years.
sorry to cut you off, that's
No.
not to say that you're not going to try in these things.
Yeah.
You're going to fucking work your ass off.
Yeah.
Right? But at the end of the day, if you have that self-awareness and realize that that's not for you, and that's not what's going to excite you every day, you got to make a change.
And that was like, I loved every second of it up to like for my first 3 years. It was great.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it was just, I was nerding out on science. Like still had no idea what I was going to do with my life afterwards, but just like, okay, cool. Like I like learning this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you know, it's really interesting times with things like that where you have to make that decision and feeling so much pressure on it. And the one thing Gary Vee brings up all the time too is
we're big Gary Vee fans.
Very
by the
big,
way.
yeah.
We drop a lot of his stuff.
It's not a binary decision.
Yeah.
It's not, okay, like, you know, I picked this program and that was the black and white to the other program.
Yeah.
You know, and reflecting on it a lot, I picked that program, yes, but it wouldn't have been I was only in a different program. There's so many people that I met and I'm friends with and still to this day friends with that I would have never encountered if I never would have went there, right?
That's what I loved about university was just the people that you meet.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because you meet like so many different people and not just people from your high school, you meet everyone, right?
Yeah.
People from different countries. It's so cool.
Yeah. And so when you're faced with hard decisions, you know, like that, and back then and even to now, how do you find that you make them? Do you have a process at all? Do you just kind of go with your gut? Like, how have you dealt with those?
Yeah, so definitely a bit of both. Sometimes I just go with my gut and I think, hey, if this is the right decision, you just sort of feel it.
Yeah.
And you know, okay, I gotta quit my job or I gotta do this.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, are you in a position to be able to do that? Yeah. So for a lot of the time that I make decisions is I just try to get out of my head and I just talk to people. Like I have conversations like this, people that I trust, try to see the other point of view.
Yeah.
I'm reading Principles by Ray Dalio right now, because he recommended it. Yeah. And he just talks about like speaking with experts that have conflicting point of views of you and just trying to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you know, making decisions for me a lot of the time is just not getting so much in my head, like going for a hike, playing sports, doing these kind of things, and then coming back to
just actually going out and doing it.
Yeah. Or just try it and just, hey, I'm going to like commit to this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what about you?
It's so funny where I was having this conversation with somebody the other day of I almost find the biggest decisions in my life are the easiest ones.
The easiest, yeah.
It's so weird where, you know, I will I have a really bad habit of second guessing myself or reanalyzing the decision that I made and, you know, everything that I do, right? Like, did I say the right thing? Did I, you know, maybe I should have made that other decision, you know, if it's with a friend or with an employee or just somebody that I just met, and analyzing all of that. Yeah. And then something comes up like you're really unhappy right now and you need to make a change.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to make a change.
Yeah, because it's so imminent that you know.
And, as I kind of went through that and my thought process and being like, why is it easier for me to make these really big decisions than the smaller decisions?
What do you think?
I think that it's almost that my brain automatically blocks out other people's opinions when it's those huge decisions. It almost says, you can't take the other people's decisions into account. Yeah. It's too big of a decision.
Totally.
So you need to block those out completely. And then it's really clear.
Yeah.
Right. And
only you have that context for you and your situation.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Only you truly understand that.
Yeah. And it's, it's funny how clear that becomes as soon as you make it.
Yeah.
Now, acting on it is completely different. Making the decision than actually following through, two different animals. But my brain and really it is like that gut feeling. Totally. It's that I need to do this. Right. And so something that I've been working on recently is, really trying to block out other people's opinions just in general and not do that second guess. Right. Totally. And go, well, maybe if I can have that filter down into those smaller decisions, it'll help me out a ton. And so that's kind of that next phase of me working into it.
So I love that. I think that's a huge talent that so many people will just analyze, right?
Yeah.
So give me an example of that recently.
So that was recently where, was a part owner in a business.
Okay.
Right. And was also working as an employee for the same business as you, right?
Yeah.
In the tech sector. And really started was I started doing a lot of kind of introspection and work on myself and really figuring out, that for one, I just wasn't happy with myself a lot of it.
Yeah.
And going into that and figuring it out and then finding my own voice. And finding that I'd always really been in leadership positions, but I never had the confidence to really believe in myself to make those decisions.
Yeah.
And that those decisions were the right ones.
Yeah.
And really starting to feel that urge to want to be that decision maker, to want to be that last line of defense and not have that safety net. And that's where it was, I think I need to go and do something on my own.
Wow.
And
how many people too would have just, it's a hard decision that you made, but how many people would just stay in the same situation and just go, well, this is what it is?
And that was really a big turning point for me. Was one day I was sitting there and because
in the office? Or?
In the office. Yeah. I was sitting there in the office and because there was this huge conflict going on in my brain.
Okay.
There was almost no space for anything else. And so I knew that my performance was suffering immensely. Okay. I knew that I felt stuck and I knew that I was wasting a lot of my days. Yeah. Like just feeling like I wasn't putting out enough. I wasn't, being...
Going through the motions?
Yeah, really just going through the motions. And one day it kind of just clicked and I went, I can see how people lose a year, 5 years of just, one day, they fall into that habit and then one day they wake up and they're like, what have I been doing?
Yeah. Totally.
And so I went and I told myself I can't allow myself to do that.
Yeah. And
so that's where I knew that I needed to make that decision and actually act on it.
You kind of caught yourself because your values weren't aligned with what you were doing?
Yeah. And I'm a very extreme person just in everything that I do. And I'm either all in or all out. And I felt that I'd gotten to that all out spot. And I physically can't force myself to go halfway.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, even like for me in sports or being competitive, I'm very much like that. I'm like, either we're having fun and it doesn't matter and it doesn't count, or
this is the freaking NBA finals.
I'm going to rip your face off. I don't care what it takes.
Matters.
Yeah. And so, but I can't go in between. And I don't necessarily know if it's a strength or weakness yet. I think it served me very well. But now that I really know that, I can understand that about myself and make sure that it's a positive.
Wow. That's great. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. So I have kind of an interesting question, so take a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to say a statement to you.
Okay.
And I'd be really curious to see kind of what pops into your mind.
Okay.
So if you're looking at yourself...
Baby Yoda.
That's just always there. Yeah, it's not popping in. That's just always, So if you were to ask yourself, what is holding me back from my full potential? What is holding Steve back from his full potential? What is that?
Good question. What is holding me back from my potential? That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think as you ask me this question, a lot of times that you realize nothing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So you feel like there's nothing in your way.
But
Which would be awesome. Which would be awesome.
Yeah, you think, well, there's nothing really, right?
Okay.
But sometimes there is.
But there's nothing that pops to mind.
Nothing that pops to mind for me is... Oh, that's a great question. I think just the story and the timeline I have in my head.
Okay.
Is one thing that...
What do you mean?
Whether it's you're never fully prepared.
Okay.
Sometimes it's, maybe I'll go back for one more degree to be a little bit better at this, and then I'll get my MBA, and then I'll be ready.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily, would you say, do you agree with this, that it's not necessarily the story that you're playing of being on that path. It's like, it's actually starting that path of what do I need to get ready to actually get onto that next path? Is that what you mean?
Absolutely.
Really cool.
Yeah. I guess sometimes you just got to start, right?
Yeah.
Is your, one day if you want to be this, then just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
What stops me sometimes is just, I need to be a little bit more prepared and then I'll do this.
Okay.
A little bit more prepared and then I'll do this. But as I'm starting to go about it, I'm realizing that you're probably never fully prepared.
Yeah.
Whether you're starting a podcast, whether you're going into nursing school or starting a business or whatever you're doing. I could be wrong, but I feel like a lot of these people never have all the answers.
Yeah.
They're just taking action and just figuring it out. For myself, I need to do more of that.
Yeah.
And sort of just get out of my head, because sometimes I'm just thinking, I need to just be a little bit more prepared. If I take my MBA, then I'll do this or what have you. But I guess as we talk about it, there's no reason for me to stop myself or get in my way.
Yeah. So going in another direction, I have what I think might be an interesting answer from you, because so the first day that I ever met you, like from the very instant, I realized that you're probably one of the most positive people I've ever met in my entire life. Like in an amazing way.
Thanks,
and almost never seeing you down. Right. And so I'm going to ask you this question. If the answer is nothing, like that's completely fine too. But what do you think? Like, do you feel that you are truly happy? Like 100% there? And if not, what do you think's holding you back from getting there?
Yeah, good question. No, I'm not 100% happy.
Yeah.
Every day I'm trying to be happier.
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing to do. So what was the question?
Just like, is there anything standing in your way of being truly happy?
Yeah. Anything standing in my way of being truly happy? No.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so where do you think...
There's a bunch of reasons too, but...
Yeah, like I said, I've always found you as an extremely positive person.
Thank you.
Where do you think that came from? Have you always been that way? Has it...
Definitely my mom.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
How so?
I think your environment is something that really dictates your happiness.
Yeah.
Growing up, my mom, and she still is to this day, she's so positive, and she always has such a good outlook. And even my grandma and my mom would always have this sort of mentality of like, I'm going to look for the best in everyone. And maybe if somebody's not the best person, or maybe they're kind of a dick or asshole, let them prove me wrong. But I'm going to look for the best in somebody, or look for the best in Dave. And then my buddy Josh Livingston always says, like, as soon as he wakes up, he's like, oh, today is going to be a great day. And I think telling yourself that is something that I'm just like, fuck yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Really cool.
I'd rather be happy than the alternative.
Cool. Awesome.
And a miserable dick.
Yeah. Another kind of really interesting question, a little bit out there of, and whatever, there's no right answer.
Yeah.
And whatever kind of pops to your mind is, when I ask you to explain your relationship with yourself to me, what kind of comes into your mind when I say that?
Competitive.
Okay.
Yeah.
How so?
I want to be, every day I want to be getting better and better. So my relationship with myself is I'm happy where I've come, but since I'm competitive, I'm always trying to get somewhere next. You know, I accomplish a goal, I want to accomplish another goal. I don't want to just sit back and just, you know, just be stagnant, you know, make like 40K and have an average house and just kind of be average. Like my relationship with myself, I'm always trying to get better. And I think whatever I do in life, if I'm always growing and trying to get better, my relationship with myself is going to be overall good.
Yeah.
But what about yourself? Is that something that you're working on? Is that something?
So that's,
we all are.
Yeah, that's been, so I'd say probably about a year ago now, I realized that I had an extremely negative and toxic relationship with myself.
Okay.
And so that's where a lot of that work has kind of come in, of really trying to repair that.
Me too.
And find, you know, like really, really repair that relationship and turn it from, like I said, an extremely negative and toxic one into a positive one, even to a neutral one would be huge for me. Right. And so, really trying to work on that is kind of I believe my next big phase, because I think that that's really what's holding me back.
Yeah. Is it like your self-talk, or is it?
It's everything. It's self-talk. It's self-image. It's a lot. And I think the biggest thing that I realized was I actually had no confidence in myself, and I could put on the facade. Yeah. Right. I figured out how to fake being confident. You know, like fake it till you make it. But you know, a lot of times people would see through that, and so finding different strategies to kind of disarm them as well. So for me, that's the next big phase in myself, is just really, really working on that relationship.
It's cool that you're working on that and realizing that, because if you're in your head and you're saying something with your own self-talk, if you were to say that to another person, you'd be like, what the fuck? This guy's a dick. Okay, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
But sometimes maybe realizing, like, okay, what is your relationship with yourself? I haven't thought a ton about this, but I like where you're headed with that and that discovery, because it could always be better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something that I've noticed a little bit is a lot of through the kind of the conversations and the different questions, you have come back to money a lot.
Have I?
Yeah. And really? So, and I don't know if that's from a combination of our other conversations as well.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, because where do you think your relationship is with money? You know, do you think that it's, and really even if you've thought about it, right?
Yeah.
You know, really. And if you have, you know, is it a safety thing? Is it a worth thing? Is it just something cool or something that you need to unpack, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Probably like a bit of... that's a good question. My relationship with money is I want to solve the money situation and work on it so I don't have to ever stress about it.
Yeah.
Growing up, my parents did pretty well. My dad was a director in a construction company. My mom stayed at home. So for me, I just want to be able to give my family those experiences that my family gave me.
Yeah.
But I see so many couples and people just constantly worry about money.
Yeah.
So I don't want that to be me. And I don't want to be with my future wife and be like, oh, what the hell? You bought yogurt. It was $4. It was $3 at the Superstore. What are you going there for? But my relationship with money, I think, is one that I'm trying to focus on more now.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that just because I'm a millennial, it means I should be broke.
Yeah.
You know?
No, for sure.
So, yeah.
Cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
And so last question of, what do you think the next phase in your life looks like?
The next phase of my life?
Yeah.
I don't know the small details.
Yeah.
But I want it to be with good people like yourself.
Cool.
Like, I want to be able to really impact people and have a great time.
Yeah.
And just, if I can be around good people, whatever I do, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And if I can have a positive impact on people and have fun with them.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. So I don't know all the small details, but like I think we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I hope so. But yeah, I definitely just want it to be with good people.
Really cool.
What are you thinking?
I don't know. I think
Because that's a tough question.
Yeah, I think that next phase really for me is just that self growth. I think that's my next phase is just focusing kind of on me, and I think that'll really unlock a lot of my potential and a lot of the things that have been holding me back. So
that's great. Do you think that by you doing that, you can better serve people? So if you're a better version of yourself, you can be better for other people?
Oh, definitely. And I think that's a huge Gary Vee thing that I've gone back to. It's being selfish to be selfless. You know, of being
selfish to be selfless.
Yes. And
explain that.
Being selfish of working on myself to better myself.
Yeah.
Knowing that a better version of myself will be able to help other people a lot better.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the selfless part.
And what does that growth look like? Like, what are you doing to be sort of like a better person?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of everyone listening to this podcast obviously wants that.
Yeah. I think for me, it's been a really long journey. I think it was going into environments where people would look at me and give me feedback that that was kind of neutral, right? Like an outside perspective on me, right?
Like an objective look?
Yeah, an objective. That was the word I was looking for. And so that started with me. Actually, I started seeing a therapist coming up on like 2 or 3 years ago, actually.
Nice.
And something that I held a whole bunch of shame around for a really long time. And I've just recently started telling people. Yeah. That was a huge one.
If it makes you a better person, why would that be a bad thing?
No. And it's crazy. Like for, treating others way differently than I treated myself. Whenever anyone would tell me that, even before I started seeing one, it was like, oh, that's great. Like, that's awesome. That's so good for you. Right? Yeah. But the moment that it's about me and it's telling other people, I'm like, no, like you shouldn't need that. You should be fine. Like, so that was a really interesting kind of mindset shift on that. Yeah. The other big one for me right now is a few months back, I started going to a group called the Kings of Hearts.
Tell me about that.
And it's discussions on modern masculinity.
Modern masculinity.
Yeah, and really it was just kind of a group setting. I went to the first one all by myself, just randomly showed up. I was just like,
where'd you find this? Where we're like,
a mutual friend, Vlad, had profiled, one of the founders, Andy.
Oh, Andy. Okay.
On his Instagram. And so I clicked into it and then I saw like founder of King of Hearts and I went into that, or co-founder, and started reading about it and realizing that it was something that seemed super interesting to me and really wanted to kind of scratch that itch. And so I went to that one. That was really the first time that I'd ever opened up to a whole bunch of people that I never knew. I had known them for maybe an hour at this point.
And give them some context. So it's on modern masculinity. But you're going in there and you're sharing these experiences with people you've never met?
For them, it was basically they started with a clip about some men having a discussion around modern masculinity.
Okay.
Right? And then they would prompt with a question of, basically, what did you think about this? And then it was just an open discussion with everybody who was there. And it was, this person would say this, and then they would transform because somebody would have a comment on that and bring their own, story or side to it. And it just kind of evolved into this really interesting conversation. And it was completely different from where we had started. But, I felt and I was able to share, some personal experiences, and I don't even really remember what they are now, but some personal experiences that were very tough for me to share.
To these guys you just met?
Well, yeah, a bunch of a room full of strangers.
Wow, good for you.
Right? And so, and then that feeling was crazy. It was almost like addictive. It was like that release, because I'd never had like that just release, and I'd always really been bad for pushing my emotions down. Right? So
and being a guy too, you're just like, you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. And so I started with them, went to a couple of their meetups, and then very recently with Andy again and a couple of the other co-founders. Really, really amazing guys. And joined a men's group called the Samurai Brotherhood with them. And so it's a men's group. We meet for 3 hours every week. And that's really where we kind of dive into a lot of just really crazy things. And I'm planning to have a lot of them on the podcast too, and going into some sort of that stuff. But and really just opening up to what started out as strangers, and now
Yeah.
it's crazy how close we've become in such a short amount of time.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
like, you just from opening up with people,
Yeah.
that relationship that you have is probably way better, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's crazy the steps that I've made in the last short amount of time. So, yeah. But that's all I have for you. Is there anything that you would like to say that we didn't get to, or anything? Talk about what you're doing now.
Yeah, for sure. So, definitely one thing that I want to say is in the whole sort of theme of this podcast, the journey with Jarred. We need to have more of these discussions, because for a lot of millennials, they feel like they're sort of the only ones, and they're sort of stuck in a situation, or maybe they're unique, and they are, but more people are going through this than you think. And I think that if we can have these spaces where we're talking about maybe working together to figure it all out and to be better people, if we are better people, then we can serve other people and be better and have a better society. If you're feeling like, holy shit, like, what do I do? I don't know what I want to do with my life. Like, you're not alone, but I would just say try as much shit as possible, and subscribe